Welcome to Cancer and Peace. My name is Sean Stewart, and I'm here with my good friend Peter Scalzo, who is our host and who has been on an 18-year cancer journey. And that's relevant today because we talked about a little bit about going through the holidays and going his journey. I think what we're going to talk about a little bit is his journey of going through many holidays in a cancer journey, some of those experiences and how he navigated it. And so I've asked him to think about that a little bit as, hey, what's some experiences you've had? And as you can imagine, on an 18-year cancer journey, he's had a lot. Now he's just trying to decide, hey, what's the most relevant ones? And so I'm putting him on the spot here. But what do you think? You have something
Well,
that's
one
on your
benefit of general anesthesia is that I can't remember very much.
Put that on your gratitude list.
Yeah. And I just had general last week, so that's probably a good thing.
He's got fog.
Yeah.
It's not chemo because you're actually on
Yeah.
an immunotherapy, but it's like I've heard of fog. So yeah.
I mean, I think that, we talked about doing this episode as because it is the holiday season coming up. And over 18 years, I have been in the hospital over holidays, definitely had recoveries from surgeries, definitely treatments, definitely scans, all the stuff that brings the normal angst, anxiety maybe, or just pain and suffering, just all that combined with the holiday season. And so I think it's also for me, it was adjusting expectations. Holiday time for me growing up was always a pleasant time. It was always, I have great memories.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas time in my house was wonderful. Thanksgiving, the whole month of December, Christmas, we had a lot of Christian traditions that were wonderful. And my mom she was like a holiday expert. And she really built just wonderful feelings around the holidays.
Is that something you can put on your resume? Holiday expert too?
Yeah, maybe so. And then my wife too, she was wonderful at creating a home of warmth. I would say warmth,
Mm-hmm.
comfort, and joy around the holidays. And in 2005, starting with my surgery and up until this year, 18 years of I'm not sure why it is. I've often asked my medical experts, why does it seem like I have so much going on in November and December? Is it because it's the end of the year? Why do I always seem to have scans and surgeries and treatments?
They're like any other business. They're trying to get all their revenue numbers up as high as they can before the end of the year.
But it's always this joy stealer, joy robber. That's been the rub for me, is like, how do I, the holidays was always a wonderful time for me. And then of course, as I worked retail, and then I worked in law. I was a lawyer for 23, 24 years. And there was always so much pressure around the holiday period. Everyone wanted their matters worked on, their cases closed, whatever, before the end of the year.
I had forgot, like, your family was in the appliance business. So
we did that too.
In that space there, the pressures of year end and all that were something that you saw was a big part of your growing up.
But I think a very influential movie for me. I think an influential holiday movie for Americans is.
Hold on, wait for it. Peter's most influential movie is
It's a Wonderful Life.
There you go. Okay.
And in that movie, as you know, James Stewart is Donna Reed and James Stewart, iconic actor and actress. The premise of the movie is he's in a dire strait, a desperate place, and he says it would have been better if I had never been born. He was actually gonna commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to jump off that bridge, remember? And so the whole movie is about, well, what would life be like around you? What impact have you had on others, and what impact have others had on you?
Yeah.
And I think that for me, at least, that's a wonderful perspective to keep in mind during the holiday period. It's about something bigger than me. It's about something bigger than the fact that my schedule is it's so crazy around the holidays because of the medical, and I'm thrust back into the medical arena so much during the holiday period. I mean, I've got stuff going on next month. I had surgery last week. I had infusion yesterday. I'm always thrust in the middle of it and of medical stuff and everything that's associated with that. There's a lot of baggage that goes along with all that kind of stuff. And yet, holidays is a time for people to have time off, time for families to be together, whether you want to or not, a time of reflection, a time of celebrating with each other, a time of having conversations that might be tough or, with difficult people, if you have them. As far as relatives, it's supposed to be a time of celebration. And yet, a lot of times the cancer patient is saddled with not feeling well and having to do treatments and recovery and surgery and all that. So, in my life, I have, really mixed feelings around the holiday period.
This is something good. I wanted to delve
Yeah.
into that a little bit because we just had a Thanksgiving celebration here at our organization, and
Mm,
we're past that. But one of the things that is helpful was to think about also how to process loss,
mm,
sadness and loss, and what to do with sadness and loss as you're in a holiday period where it seems like everybody else is having joy and great excitement and gatherings and the fun things that are happening out there. But whenever you go into a season like this and you've just experienced loss, and that could be loss with death in the family, but for I think a lot of people that are experiencing a cancer journey, it's loss of something in their life too. And because
mhm,
we've talked a lot in this podcast about how to deal with loss, or the fact that the cancer journey means that you're going to lose something.
mhm,
um, and that may be some freedom. It may be something about your ability to get around. Certainly, it means you're going to lose a big block of time that you were investing somewhere into your health journey. As your experience has been, it's a significant amount of time in this the treatment treadmill, I'll call it, for
mm,
lack of a better term, because
mhm,
never seems to end, and it's not going to end for the
right,
rest of your life. The treatment
mhm,
treadmill, and so dealing with loss is really important, and how to even process that going
mm.
into the holidays, something we talked about quite a bit. And so I'll kick it over to you. You've had great loss. How does that reconcile with the holidays and the cancer journey? And what do you think in that space?
I mean, I think that is the issue. The issue is that loss is made front and center during the holiday period. There's something about holidays that um, that brings one back, at least brings me back to exactly the reality of what's going on physically, and so loss for me, yes. I mean, we've talked a lot about how do you process loss, and I think that it's I've talked a lot about being an emotion stuffer. So it's not being afraid to journal and to acknowledge and to feel some sadness during that time, and maybe even some anger and fear.
Mm,
This could be my last Christmas.
mm,
This could be my last holiday period with my family. So um, I think that for me, processing those things is essential. And then, we talked about having an attitude of giving thanks. Before we talked about that in a prior episode for Thanksgiving. But I think that, and I think not only feeling fear, anger, and sadness, but for me, it's recognizing the riches that I do have in my life, and through my higher power, and just the gifts that I have, along with the loss. It's not to minimize those losses or not to be in denial of them, but just to have that perspective of the, the question is, can I be content?
Yeah, I wanted to dive into that. One of the things that stuck out to me from our celebration, and we had kind of a interaction with one of our staff members shared, and it was a great share. And I'll highlight something that was said. It was the difficulty of the holidays for her was the loss of her sister. It was at
Mm,
like 5 and a half. She was killed by a school bus, and the driver was drunk, and so processing that loss has been massive.
mm,
And you said something a second ago that she gave an example of, and that was, they were going to a memorial service or something like that, and I think it was one of her family members, like an aunt or something, that they didn't see very often, and said to her, "Well, hey, at least you have an angel always looking over you."
mm,
And it was something that stuck out as giving false peace.
mhm,
And false peace is, hey, you don't need to feel the hard emotions of anger, sadness, um, those, especially sadness, longing, that those things aren't acceptable. Let me give you a false fix. Well, you got your 5.5-year-old angel looking over you, so it's all good, right? And I think for the holidays, one of the things that we were encouraging, and I thought was really good, was, and you just said it a few seconds ago, and was, you allow yourself to the freedom to experience those feelings. And so, and in emotionally healthy spirituality, we talk a lot about, old feelings don't die; they get buried alive.
mhm,
And so, what I really like about holidays has been joy.
mm,
And so as you go through joy, that usually you get an opportunity to experience levels of joy, and that are relational joy and things that bring out. But somebody who sees great tragedy is coming out holidays feeling like, hey, this is going to be, it's not a feeling of joy. It might even be a feeling of dread. And so
yeah,
if your journey takes you to that place, um, there's something really good to really think about in this space, is that we're not asking you to whitewash, cover over sadness.
mhm,
It's the sadness is there because something big is there,
yeah, sure,
and it's okay to process that. It's okay
yeah,
to feel those hard emotions. And in the midst of feeling, allowing yourself to feel, you open the door for joy.
right,
And I know that sounds opposite of what one might expect, but we talk a lot about in the holidays joy. And so as I reflect on this, and I'll just put a little bit of a wrapper around this in one sense, is that, and it's this Brene Brown concept, is like, when we stuff anger and sadness, we also stuff the other side of the
mhm,
great emotions of joy.
yeah,
Um, and joy and the beauty and gratitude around
yeah,
that comes. And so I think the whole point is, like, as you're thinking about the holidays coming up, it's,
mhm,
you described not stuffing.
yeah,
And so as a cancer
I
patient,
like
as you
that.
walk into that, you felt,
Yes,
and you allowed yourself to feel.
yeah,
And it's not going to make it all better necessarily just by
yeah,
feeling, but in a sense, as we allow ourselves to process sadness to its deepest part, it unlocks something in the other beautiful side of joy that we can also feel in its deepest part.
it's good. It's really a great concept that you just gave. Truth. It's really a truth. I. It's not just the cancer for me. It's you know I have 6 children, and my wife and I divorced, and we spent all those Christmases together
Mm,
as a family, and that's missing. And even though my work was stressful, I had to leave the practice of law. I don't. I mean, I'm on disability because of the cancer journey. So that's been a lot. I mean,
yeah.
as as a man, I do like to be productive, and that's had to stop. And I was engaged last,
Yes.
and that's gone. That relationship is over. And
Those are a lot
yes,
of losses there.
there's a lot of losses.
Yeah.
And so it's allowing myself to feel it and to weep and to cry. That's
Yeah.
okay to cry. And then I love it because there is a release. There's a healing thing that comes from feeling those feelings and then being able to really feel the joy, the intensity of joy. So it's really true what you said.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's
Mm,
I think about how much relationally I miss when I cover up those feelings,
mm,
because what I'm doing by exposing those is I'm allowing other people to enter into that pain with me.
mm,
And when others are allowed to enter into that pain, then there's the opportunity for that's vulnerability. Vulnerability
mm,
is when we open up those weaker areas of ourselves and allow others to see and feel that with us. But there's this concept, and it comes out of the Cure, and I've been stuck on this for a little while, and I think it fits into this scenario is like when we don't show our real selves, the only thing that can be loved is the mask that we wear.
mm,
It's if I put on a false self, and that false self may look like somebody who isn't feeling anxious or isn't feeling sadness or pain or any of those other things. If I don't share the real pain that's happening in my life, the only thing that can receive love is the mask that I put on.
mm,
But when I
mm,
peel the mask back, I'm literally allowing other people around me to love me, the real me,
mm,
the one who may be in sadness or anger. And and that's okay. If one gets stuck for long periods of time there, there's probably something that needs to be, some time spent on. So I'm not encouraging you can move into a depression cycle that just never ends. But the point of this is not to get stuck in a depression cycle. There's ways of really, entering into that space and really working on that. But it's
mm.
to allow ourselves to be real, to have those real feelings, and to fully express those. And there's when we go into the Christmas season, there's one person who can actually carry that burden. And so if we can fully express that uh, to God,
Mm,
then he actually has the ability, in our vulnerableness, in our weakness, he has the ability to carry that burden.
mm,
And that's really opens the door for joy then at that moment in time. It's like
mm,
when we can allow ourselves to be vulnerable with God and others,
mm,
then we're experiencing the richness of joy. And so
mm.
as we're going into the cancer season, I've been thinking about like so many people here that are carrying a cancer burden. And maybe the message, and I'll be interested in your thoughts, it's let people know that that's a burden. It's okay to share that, hey, it's a struggle. It doesn't mean wallow in it and just get all consumed by it, but express and allow yourself to feel and reflect on the pain and the suffering and the loss.
Man, so hard for cancer patients. My experience in cancer support groups that I've been actually leading for 17 years, but been around, is it's really difficult for cancer patients to acknowledge, recognize, feel the feelings, and also be vulnerable about them, especially with family members. There's this instinct to want to protect family members and not let them into that inner world.
Or a false story I hear is, she's so strong.
Yes.
He's so strong. And
Yeah.
it's, well, he's not showing any emotion. He's just
Right.
crunching right on through as if
Right.
nothing happened.
Right.
And um, I think that's like a
And I
westernized concept in the
Yeah,
sense of
and
the,
I can honestly say that for 10 years of my journey, I had surgical solution. They were tough surgeries,
yeah,
but I would get a recurrence, go back in, he'd do something further. I'd be in the hospital for a long time.
yeah.
But I was, people would ask me, how's it going? It's going great. Everything's good. Yeah, they got the cancer out that they could see and everything's wonderful. It wasn't until 2015 when the situation became metastatic, and metastatic in such a way where the doctor said, that's it, we're done, where I had to go into, I couldn't fake it anymore. I had
Yeah.
to deal with the reality of my situation, and I had to express it to people. I had to be vulnerable about where I was at with this journey.
And why did it feel vulnerable? If you can give it, I mean, I think I know, but I
I
want
I don't view it as weakness, but when growing up, I viewed expressing fear, anger, and sadness as being weak. Somehow I was being weak, like I didn't have control over those emotions. These feelings were feelings that shouldn't be expressed because they showed weakness. And then I realized that that God, I don't know how else to say it, but that God, I felt God's power in being weak. I felt God's presence in being vulnerable. I felt joy in being vulnerable. I felt that inner peace with being vulnerable. Okay, yeah, I am scared right now. Okay, yeah, I am angry right now.
wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
ask the question, and you've answered, but I'm going to put a word around it and see
yeah,
if you
put it,
agree with this. And that is, because my question was going to be, hey, how should you act and interact in the holidays with your family? Some family you may not have seen for a long time, or just because sometimes distance. I know with some of my relatives, distance puts us where we're not able to interact as often as we'd like in person, and so you're going to probably get those questions, and the answer, I think what I just heard from you, and the different word isn't so much about even saying weakness and vulnerable as being real.
yes,
Express the
thank you.
real is
Thank
that,
you. Yep.
well, and I think
No, that's
that's
it.
all those, but I think you're saying,
Yep.
hey, what's the best thing you could do as a cancer patient these holidays as you're coming into the holiday season, no matter where you're at? I think what I just heard you say is be real.
Right.
You'll have one of the most fantastic holidays that you'll ever have if you can be real.
Wow. That's it. I mean, and as Christians, certain Christians, we have a tendency to say, "Oh, I'm all set. God's got this. I'm
Yeah.
I'm going to be healed." And it's like people can't really relate, especially I don't think whether they're Christian or not, they can't really relate to that. But if you say, "Hey, I'm struggling right now."
If I hear that, I almost say that person's putting on a face of strength,
Yes.
putting on a face of strength. And that sounds judgmental, but the more I hear it, the more I feel like, hey, I've seen this before. And what you're saying is you did that for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then when the thing got real,
I
you
couldn't
were
do it
like, I can't
anymore.
do it anymore.
No, I couldn't. I had to live in reality for myself. That's where peace came.
Yeah.
I couldn't white knuckle it anymore. Couldn't do it on my own.
That's such a
That's
great
when I
message.
turned over control. Yeah.
That's such a great message. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we could leave you with anything from this, hey, how to walk through cancer in the holidays, be real. Share your real self. Anger, sadness,
It's
and
it's
joy.
it's an open door not only for yourself but for others to experience and grow. I mean, think about it. You talk about inviting people in to a journey that can be rich. It can be tough, but rich. I mean, I've done that with so many people where I'm struggling today because of this. Uh,
Caution.
yes.
There's going to be some people that want to fix you.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So, so when you
that's true.
know that, be ready
Yeah.
to be fixed. And
Yeah.
and so there are a lot of emotional tools that, and we can talk about some of those. And I think we've shared a little bit in other podcasts, but be ready
Yeah.
for those who aren't ready to hear pain
Right.
to give you a fix.
Right.
And so,
And it is. I mean, for a lot of people, they feel uncomfortable when someone is like
yeah,
expressing something. It's not going well. It's painful. Whatever.
people who have a struggle with being real themselves or walking through real
Yeah.
pain
Yeah.
will generally want to give you a fix because otherwise they have to sit in pain with you, and a lot of people
Ah,
can't do that.
I love it. Yeah.
So so yeah, fascinating.
It's good stuff.
I love what your share is there, and yeah,
Good
I'm
stuff.
gonna say thanks for sharing your life and being real on this
Yeah.
podcast with us, and It's been a joy. So we do want to wish everybody here a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and that you just be blessed in this season with real relationships and real joy. So that's all for us today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Thank you.